Valve is pushing back against censorship, defending honest reviews, and refusing to silence criticism. Let's dive into the story on. Hey, it's your Dragon Lavistro. Today I'm breaking down the latest Steam drama. Some developers want to erase negative reviews, but Valve calls it censorship. The latest news comes from The Guardian, calling Steam chaotic, where abuse and bigotry pass through its moderation. It focuses on abuse especially directed towards transgender creators, quoting Brie Blonde Pizza Moore, "Everyone is at another's throats, no one is safe, developers and consumers alike." The Guardian claims Valve's hands-off approach fuels a culture war. Natalie Lawhead says bigoted reviews stay up, including one that simply said, "cringe game made by a liar," and another allegedly targeting her identity. Lawhead used social media to remove an anti-Semitic review. Some reviews remain because Valve said, "We aren't in a position to verify the accuracy of statements made in user reviews, and we don't try to moderate reviews based on accuracy." This is also about political influence. The article uses the phrase near monopoly, a term found in the UK lawsuit and in Tim Sweeney's arguments. It also overlooks other platforms like itch.io and Epic Games. Lawhead even points this out. "No other storefront has the clout that Steam does. Publishers don't take you seriously if you're not on it." Once a game is on Steam, however, it faces public opinion. Developers can't control the crowd, and honest criticism helps games improve. Ethan, creator of Coven, claims that curator Charlie Tweets Detected attacked his game for political reasons. The review cited "celebrated September 10th on Blue Sky," referencing Ethan's public celebration of a murder and political assassination for exercising his free speech in open discourse. The curator posted a similar review on Caravan Sandwich, specifically noting the game's social media account celebrated the tragedy of September 10th, 2025. Other reviewers criticized LGBT themes and political overtones. Amy of Studio Plain Toast, creator of Caravan Sandwich, claims Valve's refusal to moderate reviews has made Steam forums unsafe for marginalized people. This narrative is now used by both indie and AAA developers. Studios like those behind High Guard and Reloaded have blamed hate mobs for poor reception, avoiding accountability for their products. Valve's approach is radical neutrality. They don't check for accuracy or intent. With under 400 employees and 42 million users, monitoring every review is impossible. Community tools and automated filters help. Valve says, "We aren't in a position to verify the accuracy of statements made in user reviews. Removing reviews could be seen as censorship. Acting as gatekeepers would devalue reviews." Valve also offers transparency. Reviewers can add hardware specs, frame rate info, playtime, or refund status. This clarifies whether issues are with the game or the player's setup, making Steam's reviews among the most honest in gaming. Valve's position isn't that harassment is good, it's that centralized truth arbitration is worse. Let's examine how outrage and moderation play out, and how stories get twisted by selective outrage and missing context. But ask yourself, is this really about hate or something more calculated? It's especially telling that the curator's review specifically referenced September 10th, 2025, the day Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and his killer claimed it was to stop anti-trans violence rhetoric. The Steam curator Charlie Tweets Detected flagged developers who publicly condoned or celebrated the killing, including AAA studios like Bethesda and Sucker Punch, as well as indie devs behind Coven and Caravan Sandwich. These reviews reflected consumers making value-based choices and holding companies accountable for their public actions. Most people are repulsed by disregard for human life. The curator wasn't harassing anyone. They were just informing people which games were made by people who had committed such actions. This is a normal part of how people interact with brands that is entirely within Valve's review policy. Calling such feedback hate or demanding its removal isn't about protection, it's about silencing legitimate criticism and controlling the narrative, rather than fostering honest debate. But those same people that are calling for censorship negative reviews also went after No Rest for Wicked, who was review bombed for not making such a statement on Ukraine or adding trans characters. Earlier, Solash 2 was targeted because its developer refused to add LGBTQ content but encouraged modding it. After review bombing, positive gameplay-focused reviews returned. Most players care about fun, not politics. Valve's moderation is consistent. They actually defended LGBTQ content and allowed negative reviews, as seen with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 Gay Henry controversy. Most reviews remained, but only piracy related comments were removed, especially considering Valve's no piracy policy. Valve enforces its rules, but it won't censor unless something is off topic or a direct violation. The Guardian's credibility gap grows with the no woke curator list. The Guardian claims specific LGBT slurs were rampant, citing 2 words, but neither appeared on its curator's page. I looked. This behavior is very similar to spring 2024, when Kim Blair and Sweet Baby Inc. tried and failed to get the SBI to take the curator banned because curators, like reviewers, are entitled to opinions. Customers decide what matters. If someone wants to avoid woke content, that's their right, just as it is for parents screening violence. Even the negative reviews cited by activists don't tell the full story. Take the Caravan sandwich review, Amy highlights. Too LGBTQ, no future for these sad gays and lesbians. What's left out is the same reviewer also wrote, Frog people are probably the only ones I'll remember. I know I don't remember any names. There were no voiceovers, but the artist did a great job. The visuals were great. Sound is great. Writers, This reviewer spent 14.4 hours playing, showing their feedback is thoughtful and real, not just a drive-by attack. Unless too much of something for someone's taste is now bigotry for some reason. The real problem isn't that bigotry gets a free pass. It's that some activists and journalists lump every negative review in with hate, using moderation as a tool to silence any dissident and control the story. You see that same thing on social media. When Twitter, now X, eased up on censorship, many activists flocked to Blue Sky, but Blue Sky's users numbers nosedived by nearly 40% in late 2025, with reports stating that many leaving or being inactive. Analysts say its strong left-leaning vibe turned it into an echo chamber, draining the fun and wider appeal. In the end, people don't stick around echo chambers. They go back to where the real debate lives. Honest feedback, good or bad, is what pushes games and art to get better. The narrative around toxicity often lumps real criticism with bigotry, leading to calls for Valve to remove negative reviews. If only positive feedback remained, Steam reviews would lose authenticity. Valve's policy prefers review integrity. Curious what those hateful reviewers actually say? Let's check, starting with Coven. The so-called hateful reviews mostly mentions bland combat, confusing levels, and repetitive mechanics. Many compare it to other shooters and ask for more polish. Even players with hours on record say they'd reconsidered if the gameplay improved. That's real feedback, not a hate mob. Just as with AA games like Highguard, Ethan seems to think his game is special, lightning in a bottle. But when he gets critical feedback, even from people who played, he gets defensive. For example, when a reviewer left a detailed criticism after 20 minutes, Ethan replied, "So how can you comment on the combat? You got the starter pistol and decided combat bad. Again, impressive to get all this in 20 minutes worth of gameplay. Not exactly enough time to warrant a review in my opinion." But here's the twist. Those same complaints, bland combat, confusing level, repetitive gameplay, come from players who spent hours, sometimes up to 6 within the game. These are in the Steam reviews themselves. The message? These aren't random attacks. They're honest feedback from real players. Instead of taking it on board, Ethan's replies come off as defensive and dismissive, just like some big studios do. The real issue isn't a coordinated attack, it's how criticism gets handled. Caravan Sandwich gets the same treatment. Reviewers who put in hours mention missing fast travel, repetitive gameplay, a weak story, and technical hiccups. While a few mention the diverse cast, most complaints focus on the mechanics and polish rather than identity. Like Coven, these are genuine opinions from real players. Even though Lawhead calls most criticism bad faith, the negative reviews for Blue Serbia are pretty straightforward. Real images of people and dismembered body parts cause me to feel uneasy. It just feels like a cheap way to make a horror game. Like endless jump scares cover the missing story. And the experience itself feels empty and not immersive. Poems that lack context. Others say it's barely a game and more like an interactive art exhibit. These are critiques of design and execution, not attacks on identity. Many reviewers spent anywhere from 30 minutes to 4 hours playing, and when you see Lawhead's next game titled Individualism in the Dead Internet Age and Anti-Big Tech Asset Flip Shovelware Rant Manifesto. Yes, that's the title. You can go look it up. which is also described as a walking sim about techno-capitalism, it's clear these games are focused on politics. If you build a game for shock value or to push an agenda, expect players to push back. And here's the kicker: even with all those negative reviews, they're usually less than half the total. For games like Coven, Caravan, Sandwich, and Blue Serbia, the overall Steam rating is positive or even very positive. Some of the most beloved games, Baldur's Gate 3, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, feature LGBTQ characters and are adored by players. Take Hogwarts Legacy. Despite boycott calls and media framing like trans YouTuber Jesse Earl in GameSpot essay that buying or supporting it enables harm or violence against trans people, because Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling made statements towards trans peoples, the game actually features a trans character, Serona Ryan, who the devs confirm is trans, and he actually says, "Took them a second to realize I was actually a witch, not a wizard," and became a massive hit with over 40 million sales and 91 positive Steam reviews focused on gameplay. Gamers voted with their wallets and thumbs up. The difference? Those games put fun and gameplay first. When a title like Dragon Age of Elgard or even Highguard puts politics or weak mechanics ahead of fun, it loses its audience and racks up negative reviews. It's not about being woke or who's represented. The numbers show you can have all that and still be a hit. Gamers just want great games. That's real feedback, not an attack. Anyone can look these up on Steam. Unlike The Guardian, I'm not expecting you to take my word for it. In fact, I'm expecting you not to. I encourage it. Steam users generally seek honest and unfiltered opinions, even when critical. Valve's neutral moderation approach supports this environment. Content is only considered off-topic if it's entirely unrelated to the game. Feedback regarding the game, its developer, or their actions is permitted, fostering improvement through genuine user input. In the past, bad reviews led developers to fix bugs and improve gameplay, something that helped classic games survive. But now, some developers, indie and AAA alike, do the opposite. Instead of facing criticism, they blame hate mods for poor sales, like with Highguard and Reloaded. Compare that to Hello Games and No Man's Sky. After a rough launch and harsh reviews, they listened, made changes, and pulled off a comeback. Too often, disagreements gets labeled as toxicity, and honest criticism is brushed off as bigotry or trolling. This isn't about gaming. It happens in movies, TV, and politics. Ignoring real feedback always leads to worse outcomes and less interest. Players want their voices heard, not silenced. And if you're wondering if this drama is isolated, hold on. It's bigger than that. When studios like Larian actually engage with criticism, as they did with Baldur's Gate 3, the results speak for themselves. Loyal fans, great sales, and a game that stands the test of time. Accountability remains essential. Constructive feedback, whether positive or negative, drives improvement in games and art. Developers seeking recognition must respond to criticism and implement changes rather than suppress dissent. This principle underlines the current debates regarding review moderation. Take the Ashes of Creation debacle. When a game shut down, accusations of a scam led Steam to override its refund policy. Honest reviews and community pressure exposed the truth. Yet if the narrative pushed by The Guardian and certain activist devs had their way, where any criticism could be censored if it's framed as hate, the scam and its victims might have been buried. Ironically, Ashes of Creation's creator, Sheriff, and the company's finance officer, his husband, both gay, are members of a protected class. Clearly, identity isn't a shield from criticism, nor should it be. Real accountability means checking the facts, not just echoing a narrative. So how about if we take the Guardian's quote about Lawhead's experience at face value? If their claims of rampant bigotry were true, we'd expect to see several reviews reflecting that. But we don't. It's highly probable that Valve's automated systems or standard report queries already caught and removed any genuine violations. If so, the developers and the Guardian's portrayal of Steam as an unmoderated Wild West falls apart. When you actually check the links provided in the article, the reviews, discussions, or even a full review The Guardian cites as a negative review of queers, the reality is often very different. The content is either not as inflammatory as described, or the content has been stretched. Even a curator, No Woke, doesn't include phrases that The Guardian claimed. I couldn't even find a Rest in Peace Charlie Kirk review comment that the article says is still alive. Claims of transphobic reviews often just link to people criticizing the game's political messaging, like the curator Friendly List, who calls out gender pronouns agenda and simplistic combat. Accusations of racist reviews reference posts that mention the presence of Muslim characters, which, for the record, is a religious, not racial identity. And even those reviewers praised the art and music. The so-called Embroria Sky review focused on gameplay, not hate, and features over 2 hours of gameplay. And honestly, as a veteran who's seen media spin and selective framing firsthand in real-world conflict, I'm not surprised to see journalists omitting facts or nuance when it fits a political agenda. That same attention to detail, the kind that helps spot an IED disguised as a Pepsi can with a straw, made all the difference. Miss something like that, and this dragon and his buddies could have gone boom. It pays to be skeptical and double-check facts, not just accept the loudest narrative. If we don't demand accuracy and accountability, we risk falling for misinformation. When you really examine these links, the Guardian's credibility is questionable. The article often states dogmatic facts without explanation. Ironically, those pushing for censorship want to shut down fact-based challenges protected by Valve's policies and the First Amendment. And here's another point. We don't even know if these quote-unquote racist, sexist, transphobic, bigoted, negative reviewers are minorities, women, or LGBT themselves. It assumed they are not. But to assume makes an ass of you and me. We seem to find some among these identities having negative reviews on these games as well. As a dragon with Native American ancestry, who's also a disabled combat veteran, that's 3 protected classes, by the way, I know protected status is meant for equality, not immunity from criticism. Using identity to dodge accountability only hurts real victims. That becomes the boy who cried wolf scenario. The boy cried wolf so many times that when a wolf actually came, the villagers ignored him and it devoured him and the sheep. Honestly, it seems like everything gets slapped with ism these days. Sometimes I wonder if a therapist would ask, is this ism in the room with us right now? Before reaching for the straitjacket. Ultimately, gamers value the ability to critique substandard games, overt political messaging, and fraudulent practices. Valve's neutral stance safeguards this freedom. Many users are frustrated by the dismissal of legitimate criticism as bigotry. Evidence suggests that the misuse of identity to suppress dissent rather than neutrality or honest reviews poses a greater risk to marginalized groups. If Valve were to acquiesce to developer demands for increased censorship, the platform would lose the candid feedback essential for improvement. A review system limited to positive commentary would undermine the authenticity of both art and gaming, forcing gamers to find a different platform, as with Blue Sky losing its active users, or potentially Discord. While Valve's approach is not without flaws, it remains a critical safeguard against censorship. What do you think? Should Valve defend honest criticism, or should developers be able to silence feedback? If you disagree, share your reasoning in the comments. Let's keep gaming honest and art real. And as always, happy gaming.
Worlds clash in endless collision. Gaming news with a fierce precision. With a spark so wild it breaks the norm. In the tempest eye, a cyberstorm. Reclaim gaming and dragon cast. Fire breathing wine, screaming loud. Lavistro's here to shake the crowd.